You know, when you think of Iceland, your mind probably goes straight to those breathtaking landscapes, the northern lights, all that good stuff. But there's another story there, one that's just as powerful. It's the story of how this small island nation became a global model for gender equality. So let's explore the blueprint they created, a story of how an entire nation decided to reimagine its future. I mean, for the last decade, Iceland has ranked #1 on the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Index. #1. But, that doesn't just happen by accident. So how exactly did they do it? That's the big question we're going to dive into. Well, the answer really lies in what people call the Icelandic model. And it wasn't just one single thing. It was this long, determined journey, fueled by relentless activism, some really bold laws, and this deep belief that a fairer society was actually possible. And it all kicked off on one day that literally changed everything. Okay, so to really get how this whole movement happened, it helps to be on the same page with some of the key ideas that drove it. Let's just quickly run through the words that really define this story. First up, strike. This was their main weapon, really. A collective refusal to work that became the ultimate tool for demanding change. But a strike by itself isn't always enough, right? The real goal was to turn that disruption into lasting change through legislation. Basically, the laws that would make equality official and enforceable. And of course, to get those laws passed, you need massive public pressure. And that came in the form of protest, with thousands and thousands of people taking to the streets to make sure their voices were heard. Now, this is crucial. The protest wasn't just about the 9-to-5 job. It also targeted domestic life, all the cooking, the cleaning, the childcare, to prove that this often invisible work was absolutely essential. And the result of all that? Absolute chaos. Seriously, when women walked away from all of their jobs, both the paid ones and the unpaid ones at home, the country was just plunged into a state of disruption that nobody could ignore. The entire economy just ground to a complete standstill. We're talking grounded flights, closed banks. Society just stopped. And it laid bare just how dependent it was on the work women did every day. This left a lot of men desperate. They were trying to juggle their jobs and the kids, and famously had to resort to buying candy and colored pencils just to keep their children occupied at the office. The effect was so huge, it didn't just disrupt the country, it managed to paralyze it. It forced a moment of truth for the entire nation. And at the heart of it all, this was a fight against systemic discrimination, the unjust pay and the undervalued work that women had put up with for way too long. But you know what? Out of all that struggle came triumph. And not just small wins, but major victories, like brand new laws, and, believe it or not, the election of the world's first ever democratically elected female president. And that fight for fairness just kept going. In more modern times, a new tool came into play, a certificate. It's a document that forces companies to actually prove they pay men and women equally. Which brings us to the ultimate goal of this whole movement, to eliminate the gender pay gap entirely and create a society where discrimination is just a thing of the past. All right, so now that we've got the lingo down, let's get into the main event. It all starts on one historic day, October 24th, 1975. Okay, I want you to just look at that number.
90%. Let that sink in. This wasn't some small group of activists. An incredible 90% of Iceland's entire female population took part in what they called the Women's Day Off.
And the impact was immediate. It was absolute. Banks and factories shut down. Flights couldn't take off. Theaters went dark. With schools and daycares closed, dads had no choice but to bring their kids to work with them. The whole country was thrown into this chaos that made one thing crystal clear. Society could not function without women.
And you can see the results right here. This protest wasn't just for show, it delivered real, actual change. Just 1 year later, the Gender Equality Act was passed. And then, only 5 years after that strike, Icelanders achieved this massive triumph, electing Vigdis Finnbogadóttir as the world's very first democratically elected female president.
But the fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Even with these incredible political wins, one stubborn problem just wouldn't go away: the pay gap. By 2005, a full 30 years after that first strike, women were still earning, on average, just 64% of what men earned. So what did they do? They walked out again, leaving work at the exact minute their pay for the day effectively stopped.
This constant pressure led Iceland to do something truly revolutionary. In 2018, it rolled out this groundbreaking solution. It became the very first country in the world to make equal pay the law. It wasn't about asking companies to be fair anymore. It was about requiring them to prove it with a certificate. And if they couldn't, they'd face serious fines. So after that incredible journey from protest all the way to policy, what does this blueprint for equality really look like? Let's tie it all together.
Okay, so let's break it down. Iceland's path to the top started way back in 1975 with that huge strike that brought the country to its knees and totally changed how people saw women's work. That single protest led directly to anti-discrimination laws and the historic election of a female president. But the pay gap was a tough nut to crack, so women had to organize more strikes in the 2000s. All that relentless pressure finally led to that game-changing 2018 law that made equal pay a legal requirement. And today, Iceland is this incredible role model, proving that real progress is absolutely possible through collective action and bold laws.
You see, the story of Iceland isn't just about one country. It's really a masterclass in how to make social change happen. It offers this clear, powerful blueprint built on unity, disruption, and just plain persistence. Which leaves us all with a pretty important question, doesn't it? Who will be next to follow it?
Beyond norm, where English isn't just a subject, it's a way to think, grow, and connect.